I'm joined by Mick Lynch, the General Secretary of the RMT Rail Maritime Union. Were you disappointed Mr Novak didn't specifically address the winter fuel allowance issue?
Well, I thought it was an excellent speech. It was very powerful, very punchy and well delivered. But he can't address that issue because we haven't debated it. We'll do that after lunch today, and I'm sure it will be supported. And that's going to be going to the heart of Labour's current problem, that they have set themselves a fiscal rule inherited from the Tories that's not going to provide enough revenue or money to fix the country's problems. There's an awful lot of problems to be looked at in terms of public services, infrastructure, pay and other matters. And that's the debate we're going to have. I'm sure that the Congress will support our campaign that we're calling for a fair economy. And a fair economy means that everybody's got to pay their due through progressive taxation. That will mean wealth taxes, that accumulated wealth of the super rich will have to be taxed at the same rates that all of the rest of us do on PAYE. And that will give us the right amounts of money to put the country back together. And that's the nub of the debate. Getting Congress, getting the TUC to campaign for that inside the Labour movement and with the Labour Party.
Now, you are teaming up with Sharon Graham of Unite to put forward this motion on a wealth tax. She's talked about an extra 1% tax on millionaires, on the top 1%. If you're talking about taxing people at the same rate on income from property, shares and so on as PAYE, that suggests you're proposing or favour a rise in capital gains tax. What are you calling for exactly?
Well, there are a number of taxes that you can look at. An astute person like Rachel Reeves can look at that. She's got a number of levers at her disposal. The problem is that she's chosen to declare that she's not going to use very many of them. And the main thing is that she won't borrow for investment. So we need loads of investment, as everyone can see. Many of our cities and communities are crumbling at the minute. We need to rebuild the infrastructure. That includes our schools and our hospitals, but also the engineering and civil infrastructure that we need to put together. So it's up to her how she goes about it. We're not here to dictate to the Chancellor, who's a very astute person, about what she's got to do, but she shouldn't delimit herself in such a way that she seems to have done in the run-up to her first budget. But she's in for the long term, and we respect that. So you're not going to solve all of the problems of the country in one budget after one election. She's got a bit of time and a bit of room, and she's got to make that room for herself politically and in terms of public relations, if you want to call it that, to make the case, and so is the TUC, that we need a better public spending regime, and that means getting the revenues that the government need to do the things that the public want.
Workers' rights. Angela Rayner's here later. She's bringing forward this package, this legislation on workers' rights. Are you concerned that the government might bow to some pressure from the bosses to either water down or delay a bit some of those proposals that you and other unions have been calling for?
Well, it's a concern, but we're fully aware of it in the run-up to the election and even when the policy was being formulated. Now, business has got to accommodate itself to the changes that are going to come, just as they had to when we brought in the Factories Act, the Health and Safety at Work Act, and the minimum wage and all the other progressive legislation that we've had. So they're going to have to accommodate that. They will have their right to get their say with the government. It's their government too. But we want them to be strong, to be bold, and make sure that we all reorient the workplace so that everyone gets a square deal. At the moment, we're not getting that with 0 hours, precarious work, lack of flexibility, and all sorts of other measures that need to be addressed.
Very briefly, travelling public will want to know, any RMT strikes on the way or on the go?
Well, we haven't got a strike on public transport. We've got one at the Ministry of Defence with the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, and we're looking at John Healey, the Secretary of State, and others to come to us with a proposal so that we don't have to take that action. Our members support the Royal Marines and the Royal Navy. We hope that we're going to get a deal for our rail members and for our MOD members at the RFA very soon from this government.
So, no strikes on the railways, that's good news. Mick Lynch, thank you very much. There we have Mick Lynch talking about wealth tax, talking about workers' rights, and the good news, no strikes on the trains by his unit at the moment.